Wanna talk? So let's talk. Here. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk.
Good evening, and welcome. It's Talk to Solomon time, and it's a sad day, frankly. First, let me introduce my co-host, Brent Johnson from freedomradio.us. Brent, how are you?
Oh, as you say, it is a sad day. I'm doing all right, though there's all kinds of unfortunate news that we've come across today.
That's true, but specifically, I'm not even sure you know this, Bob Chapman, who's appeared on this program for many, many years, passed away.
Yes.
Bob
Yes,
had...
I am aware.
Yeah,
I'm
he
aware
had...
Bob
had
was actually scheduled. He was
pancreatic cancer and didn't tell anyone, and by the time they found out about it, there was nothing that could be done, and he only lasted a few days. So, at any rate,
Bob was a regular guest on my show as well, the Global Freedom Report, and I knew he was not well. I did not know that he had pancreatic cancer, as nobody did, and so yes, I'm aware of it.
Well, at any rate, I just would say to everyone, the world has lost a brilliant man, a quality man, a great contributor to fact and truth, and we're not as good a world as we were a couple of days ago before Bob passed.
I agree completely.
All right, well, let us introduce our guest, a man who has created quite a stir. His name is Ray Comfort. Ray, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on your program.
It's always a pleasure to have a quality person join us. Say hello to Brent Johnson.
How you doing, Brent?
Brent, can you hear
Hi
Ray?
there, Ray. Good to have you.
Good. Ray has created a stir because he has put together one of many projects he's done, a movie. This one's called 180, and I watched it with great interest. And Ray, talk to us about why and what it's doing and where it's going.
Well, we put our movie up on a website called 180movie.com. It's a pro-life movie connected where 8 people changed their minds about the subject of abortion because they were told or asked one question. We're delighted to say that it's had over 3 million views in the last 8 months. It's a 33-minute movie that starts off with 14 people denying they've even heard of who the hell Hitler is, and it's a very exciting movie.
Now, I'm a pro-life guy. Brent's a pro-life guy. To me, anyone with an I and a Q is pro-life. But of course, many people would argue the other side of that question. If you believe that God gives us free will, then people have a right to make up their own mind. But the fact is, a lot of people are not playing with the full deck when it comes to information. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, they've only been given one side of the story. If you look back at what Hitler did in the 1930s to Germany, he had Goebbels, his propaganda minister, brainwashed them into vilifying the Jews. And we've got a whole generation that have been brainwashed into thinking they're apes. They truly believe the silly theory of evolution, which has no scientific basis whatsoever, and thinking they're primates. And secondly, they've never heard the other side of the story when it comes to issue abortion. They just think it's a woman's right to choose, not realizing that it's an actual baby in the womb. So when you can challenge them as to what is actually in the womb and they admit that it's a baby, then it's very hard for them to justify why we should be able to kill a baby in the womb, especially when they've got a conscience.
All right. Well, you know, I've had many discussions with many a intelligent person that simply can't add 1 and 1 and come up with 2. And you have people that they simply don't want anything to get in the way of their perception. Brent, your thoughts?
Well, in the first place, you cannot discount the fact that there are those out there who have financial incentives, to maintain the idea of abortion. Obviously, Planned Parenthood, it makes a tremendous amount of money at taxpayer expense, I might add, okay, by promoting abortion. So as long as money is one of the guiding principles of society, there will be people out there, regardless of the sane arguments, who are going to promote the killing of the unborn. And that's, the way you change that is by changing the value systems of society. But I have a question for Ray. Ray, you mentioned that you asked one question. Now, I was not able to find one of the trailers, so I haven't seen any part of this. What was the question that you asked that got people to do such a 180 turnaround on the issue of abortion?
It was a question that appealed to their inner knowledge of right and wrong. It's on 180movie.com, and I'm going to leave it as a teaser for you to go and watch the whole thing, because it's only 33 minutes, it's free. But if I told you what the one question was that changed people's minds from being adamantly pro-abortion to being pro-life in a matter of seconds, it would almost be a letdown for you. I do a lot of sleight of hand for kids. I do magic for kids. And sometimes I show kids how the magic's done, and immediately they go, oh, is that all that's involved? And it loses its magic for them. And if I told you the question out of context without the magic of seeing people's facial expressions change, it will be a letdown for you. So just check it out, 180movie.com. It's completely free. It's very fast moving. You won't be able to stop watching it. It's a roller coaster ride of emotions. It begins with a guy named Steve, who is a neo-Nazi, black-hating, Jew-hating, Hitler-loving, America-hating, neo-Nazi atheist with a 14-inch mohawk. He's extremely hateful, but over the next 33 minutes, you'll watch him completely do a 180 and change his mind from being an atheist to being a humble man who is going to say he's going to look into the things of God. So can I encourage you just to check it out, Brent, because it's, if you check it out and you love it, then you're going to pass it on to other people, and that's how it's got over 3 million views. This thing we call the internet can be used for evil and it can be used for good. Well, here it's being used for good because people are changing their minds about abortion through just watching it, and changing their minds about the things of God also through watching it. So it's got tremendous power behind it.
Well done, Ray. And as usual, Brent cut right to the chase, and that's his skill set. But I also joined Ray in encouraging you, Brent. I gave you the wrong website, which is the reason you didn't find it, and I apologize for that. But it's 180movie.com. So it's easy to find, and it'll be a pleasant 33 minutes. The reality is that the key to this is you got people to actually engage in conversation and, give and take and talk. There are a lot of these folks that won't talk, a lot of these folks that won't listen, a lot of these folks that won't think, and that's the reality. Is that not true, Ray?
Absolutely. I'd like to pick up on something that Brent said before. The reason we put the movie out is because I told WorldNet Daily I would give them a video along with a book I wrote for them called Hitler, God, and the Bible. And when I researched for the book, I thought I'd uncover why it was that Hitler killed so many Jews. It didn't make sense to me. It seemed out of proportion. There were all sorts of theories about him being jealous of the Jews, about him being bitter that his paintings were rejected by an art school in Vienna, that he had VD from a Jewish prostitute. But nothing made sense to me, because if someone's bitter, I can imagine going out and killing a Jewish person, maybe a whole Jewish family, but Hitler killed 6 million Jews, so I thought there must be an incendiary incentive. And so I began to study it, and I uncovered that in 1938, April the 26th, Hitler passed a law mandating that all Jews had to disclose their wealth. They had to disclose, where their bank account was, how much gold they had, etc. So what they're actually doing was signing their death warrants. No doubt millions obeyed the law because they were threatened with a 10-year prison sentence, but they didn't, and hard labor. So when the Gestapo showed up at a Jewish home, they knew who owned what jewelry, who owned what gold, they knew who owned what bank account, what the numbers were, how much was there. So when Hitler killed a Jewish family, he got their house, he got their car, he got their jewelry, he got their insurance policies, he got their paintings, he got the gold out of their teeth, the hair off their head, and his clothes off their back. Adolf Hitler made billions of dollars killing Jewish families. And which brings me to another quandary that I had. Why is it that pro-abortion people are so zealous for a woman's right to choose? It just seemed out of proportion, and I thought there must be an incendiary incentive. And it didn't make sense until I understood that they make billions of dollars through killing babies in the womb. If you want to find how much your local clinic charges to kill a baby in the womb, you don't have to look for smoke coming from a chimney. Just Google in find that your local clinic will kill a 16-week baby in the womb for $690. If it's a 19-week baby, 3 weeks later, it's going to cost you 4 times the amount, $2,690. Quick work, just rip off the head, the arms, the legs, assemble the body parts on a table, throw it in the trash. Do that 15, 20 times a day, and you're talking big money. Abortionists make billions of dollars each year through killing babies. So it's nothing to do with a woman's choice. It's all about lining pockets through a well-oiled killing machine, which has been legalized in America.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. Brent?
Yeah, and I agree as well. And what you're describing is actually a tactic that was perhaps perfected, might be the right word, by Dr. Joseph Goebbels, who was the propaganda minister for Adolf Hitler, which is packaging. Okay, whatever you want to accomplish, the idea is to package it in a manner that helps you accomplish it. So they want to accomplish support for abortion in order to feed the kitty. They can't go out there and say, well, we're going to kill a bunch of babies, send us money. Okay, it doesn't work. So they turn around and they say, a woman has the right to choose. Now, you don't have a right to choose whether or not somebody lives or dies. Why should a woman have a right to choose whether or not somebody lives or dies? But because it's packaged that way, it becomes socially and societally acceptable. But by the way, the other thing about Hitler, Hitler's main thing was he needed to have some boogeyman. There had to be a boogeyman. If you're going to get millions of people to support what you're doing and support it mindlessly, you need to have a monster. In Hitler's case, the monster he created was the Jew. You know, and this was the monster, and he built up the Jew as the worst thing for society with all kinds of packaging. Today, the monster is terrorism. Okay, we built up the boogeyman is terrorism, and anybody who speaks out against whatever the status quo is labeled that way. It's the same type of packaging. It's always about packaging. If you can see through that, you can see through the propaganda.
Ray, your thoughts?
Absolutely.
Now, let me ask you this question, Ray, and you've done the research. I've done my share, perhaps not like yours. I believe that Hitler was trying to kill God because Hitler was trying to replace God with himself. I believe there are two kinds of people in the world, those who believe in God and those who think they're God. And I believe that Hitler, of course, being the monster he was and having the unique situation where he had the power that he did, by killing the Jews, he was killing Christianity, which he thought was and said was an invention of the Jews, and therefore he was killing the God of the Jews and of the Christians, and therefore was able to put the state with himself in charge of the state in that place. Is there any, do you have any thoughts on that theory?
Yeah, Hitler was actually an idolater. He started off as a baby kisser, which all politicians have to do. If you want to get anywhere, particularly in American politics, you've got to be a baby kisser, and you've got to get your photo taken outside a church building with a rose pastor as you hold your shrink-wrapped Bible, and throw a few Bible verses in when you visit a prayer breakfast or make speeches here and there. And that deceives the heart of the simple. But what Hitler was actually an idolater. He made a God in his own image. He hated the God of the Bible, called him a tyrant. He created 12 commandments of his own because he hated the 10 commandments. He replaced Christian pastors with Nazi pastors. He removed the cross and replaced it with a Nazi flag, removed the Bible, replaced it with Mein Kampf. And idolaters are probably the scariest people to ever get in power because their God allows them to do anything they so desire. A wise man once said, "Most I fear God, next I fear him who fears him not." Adolf Hitler's God that he believed in didn't exist. He was a figment of imagination, that place of imagery, but that gave him the ability to carry out his own evil agenda.
Now, Ray, again, let's give people the website.
It's 180movie.com. We also have a mother website that I'd like to mention, if I may. It's livingwaters.com. There's a video we've just put up of the Duggar family giving out a gospel tracts. And we've sold 160 million gospel tracts, and it really helps Christians share their faith. And so maybe people would like to check that out on livingwaters.com and also visit 180movie.com and watch the movie free of charge.
Now, by having the movie at no charge, you're obviously saying to people, if you like the work you're doing, please help support your ministry, which I'm 100% for. How would they do that?
Let's go to livingwonders.com and check it out, and they can support it through that. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much.
It's our pleasure, and thank you for your work you've done. Now, Brent, if you were to, I know you haven't seen the movie, and it's well done, and it's very effective, and I think it will work that line of logic with a certain percentage of the people on the other side. If you were to try and summarize the problem that abortion brings, 55 million abortions in America, over 1 billion abortions worldwide, and that number is growing every day because there are more and more countries being pressured or convinced to authorize, legalize, and naturalize abortions. Can you just give your overview of the issue?
Well, first, I think, and now I really genuinely believe that there are a small number of people, influential people, powerful people, who want to rule the world. And I do believe that from that perspective, and there's a lot of evidence to support this, there is a global effort to depopulate the planet. That if there are fewer people on the planet, they become easier to control on behalf of those who want to rule the world. And even the Georgia Guidestones even have, right there, we want to have 500, what is it, I think 500 million people on the planet, something like that. The idea is to make fewer people. And there are many ways to accomplish that. You accomplish that by spreading diseases like AIDS and such. You accomplish that by creating bio-engineered viruses. You accomplish that by promoting the killing of the unborn. Additionally, it's not just a matter of the unborn, it's a matter of what the unborn would have accomplished had they been born. You deny the technology, you deny the achievements, you deny the inventions. What if one of those unborn babies was the second coming? I mean, you deny, it's impossible to anticipate even, to designate what you have lost by all the abortion. I think a lot of this is the depopulation of the planet in pursuit of overall control. Now that's from the standpoint of the true globalists. From the standpoint of the common ordinary people, it comes back down to how it's packaged, how it is presented to them. You will have very good people, I mean people who believe they are good people of good conscience, who will sit there and defend a woman's right to choose because she's the one carrying the baby. And they believe what they're doing is right. I think, again, going back to the Hitler comparison, I'm sure there were some very, very good people who served in the German army who didn't realize what they were contributing to by their deeds. Nonetheless, they performed great evil. You can get good people to do great evil if you promote what you're doing in the right way. And in this respect, what Ray said about the internet being a tool could be used for good, it can be used for ill. And in this respect, I think it is used for ill, in the idea of promoting the killing of the unborn. If we could get people to realize, simply, you're taking a life. That's what you're doing. You're taking a life. If we can get them to realize that, I think there'd be so much less abortion, because I think there are a lot of people out there who would not knowingly take a life. They just don't believe they're doing so.
Well, you're inadvertently keying in on part of the 180 movie. Ray, your response?
Yeah, I totally agree. There's ignorance as to what abortion is, and you're right, brother. The Stand 180 movie actually does that. When Brent talks about the overpopulation thing, anyone who says to me, and a lot of people believe that the Earth is overpopulated, I like to ask them if they've ever flown from LA to New York in a plane and looked out the window. There are billions and billions of acres of fertile land that is totally unpopulated. It's just such a myth, and sadly it's used to justify abortion.
Now let me agree with Brent as usual. His insight is superlative. I would also add that the whole gay agenda, it may be some people who have desires for certain sexual activity that think they're in charge, but it has nothing to do with them. It is non-procreational activity, non-procreational lifestyles that goes to this agenda. And if people do not realize that if you are black, the plan is to depopulate Africa and kill all the blacks. Margaret Sanger was very specific in her Negro Project that blacks were stupid because they believed in God, and all you had to do was convince their ministers, their leaders, it was in their own best interest to kill their kids, and we wouldn't have to go kill them, they'd kill themselves. Ray, have you heard that?
Yeah, eugenics. Hitler learned about eugenics from the United States, believe it or not. And I think the only answer to this mess that we're in is the gospel of Jesus Christ. And my agenda is never been to turn people into being pro-life only, where someone will walk away from me and say, oh, I'm now pro-life, but I'm also pro-homosexual marriage, I'm also pro-pornography. I want to see the heart change, because when someone gets right with God, they immediately become pro-life. They immediately become one man, one woman. So that's my agenda, to proclaim the gospel and to see people's hearts, not just their minds, but their hearts change, because we have a mess in every direction we look at.
All right, now we have a few minutes left here with Ray. And Ray, again, your website where people can go to support your work.
Livingwaters.com. Thank you.
Livingwaters.com. We'll put that up. .com. We'll put that up on the screen so people can see it here for a sec. In the meantime, I believe that we have in abortion, the abortion movement, the ability to recreate, and I got in so much trouble for this when I said this, whatever, in the late 80s, much less in the 90s, that I said the only difference between those who believe in Nazism and those who believe in abortion is most of the people who believe in Nazism spoke German. Most of the people that believe in the abortion Holocaust speak English. But they're saying exactly the same thing, and that is we, whoever we is, you or whomever, has the right to determine whether or not someone is worthy of life based on only your opinion and not their actions. So if you decide that all blacks, all whites, all yellows, all reds, all browns, all tall, all short, all male, all female, all handicapped, all challenged, all blind, all deaf, all Downs affected, and they've already made that decision, that simply the fact that you exist in a certain way is sufficient for someone else to say you're not worthy of life. Isn't that where we are, Ray?
Yes, and much of it is thanks to evolution. Hitler was a great believer in Darwinian evolution, and he killed anyone he considered to be not the strongest. The strongest survive, the fittest survive was his mantra, and he put to death anyone he didn't think was fit to survive. That means blacks, gypsies, Jews, homosexuals. He had 220,000 mentally and physically handicapped people put to death because he considered them to be useless heathens. And we see a similar thing happening in the United States, where there is a lack of fear of God. We've taken away the commandments which say you shall not kill, and we've put ourselves up as God, and chose their own very slippery moral standards to go by.
Brent?
Yeah, I agree with what both of you are saying on this. I believe that when you find something that everyone agrees on, or most people agree upon, that something is to be noted. And something that all people of all faiths agree upon is the Word of God, by definition, is the truth. So for me, okay, the pursuit of truth is the pursuit of the Word. And as you so properly said, Ray, that when you're taking a life, okay, you are violating the will of God. I mean, and frankly, it doesn't matter if you're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, it makes no difference. They will all agree on the same thing, that the taking of a life is violating the will of God. I know you may disagree on the Muslim end stand, but the point being that if you pursue the truth, you pursue the word. And the truth is that God created life. To take life is to take from God, regardless of the justification for doing so.
Ray, we have just a few minutes to wrap this up. I'm going to hand it to you. Why should people go to 180movie.com if they're already pro-life? Why should they go if they're adamantly pro-choice? Why should they go if they don't care one way or the other? It's not an issue for them. Your thoughts?
Well, I think they should go and check it out because nearly 3.1 million people have. We gave away 180,000 copies of the DVD in one day to 100 top universities across the U.S. If people are pro-life, this will be a shot of adrenaline for them. If they're pro-abortion, this will be some information that will change their perspective, and I trust they're not closed-minded, and they'll take the time to check it out. And I want to thank you very much for having me on your program.
It's always our pleasure, and thank you for being with us, Ray.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Ray had
And
to run. We still have a few
comment,
minutes with
if I may
Brent. Go
say.
ahead, Brent.
Yeah, and that is simply that. What I found is that the website is 180movie.com, but if you put a www in front of it, you won't get there.
All right. 180movie.com and it should find it for you. Now, there's some stories out there that we can talk about, but since we have a minute or two, I just want to talk about one, and that is that unemployment among Hispanics is at 11% on the books and at over 20% if you take the U6, as Bob Chapman always talked about. Do you think that Hispanics in this country, those that are here legally, are going to continue to blindly follow Obama and the left, which has done anything and everything possible to destroy their possibility of a good future?
I think some will and some will not. There are always some who will be the victims of pandering. Always. Okay. If you tell the people that Peter is going to take from Paul, you will always get the support of Paul. Okay. Always. So yeah, there are going to be some. Now there are also going to be some who actually can think for themselves and who don't just react to the pandering. So I think the answer is some yes, some hopefully no.
All right. Now, Brent, we're going to disconnect from you because the connection is not good, and we'll call you back in just a few minutes, so hopefully we'll get a better connection. Oh, we're okay? All right. Well, then just hang tight, and we'll take a break, and we'll be back shortly with our next guest. This is Talk to Solomon. Do you like to eat? I do. We all run to the store if we're hungry, right? Well, there are times when that doesn't work. And for those times, and it may be for an hour, and it may be for a day, and it may be for a week, who knows, God's in charge, you need to have quality food. Alpine Air, that's what this is, quality food. It has extended shelf life, and it tastes great. You should store what you eat and eat what you store. Just go to cpnlive.com, click on the icon for the Alpine Air foods. It's incredibly reasonable. It's actually a way to save money. Alpine Air has quality food that's going to be there when you need it. It's always better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Alpine Air at cpnlive.com. Click on the icon and protect your family. You have a computer, if you're alive today, which means you have a hard drive, which means it's going to break down. Mozy, the backup people, for thousands, for Stan, for thousands of people, for tens of thousands of people, is simply common sense. You go to cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mozy, the backup people, and sign up. It's just a few dollars a month. Let me tell you something. We had a break-in. They stole our whole computer. You know what? When they take the computer, you can't recover anything, but we had Mozy. We had the backup. We were able to restore everything simply by buying another computer. cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mozy to backup people, and give yourself common sense, peace of mind, great value, the best thing you've ever done. Sooner or later, it's going to be. Mozy, the backup people. I am holding in my hand a product. It's called TR10 Supercolloidal Silver. It's a natural antibiotic that works. You know, the reason we use silver to make cutlery, silverware, is because nothing grows on silver. It's the reason they put it in your teeth. It's the reason they use silver instruments to operate on the brain. TR10 is very inexpensive. Just go to cpnlive.com, click on the icon for the TR10, and order a quart. It's so inexpensive, it's really silly. But it's invaluable when you have a sore throat, when you have a cold, when you have something you're concerned about in yourself, your child, whether you have to spray it in your eyes or swallow it or put it on your skin, makes no difference. It's totally safe. It has less silver than is the safe level in drinking water, yet it's done in such a way that it does the job. A natural antibiotic, yours, TR10, supercolloidal silver, from cpnlive.com. Just click on the icon.